So we discussed the concept and principles of Python programming. What is a program? The ability to code computer programs is an important part of literacy in today's society. A program is a set of instructions instructing a computer to do a specific task. Software is a generic term used to describe computer programs, scripts, and applications. The word program, meron dapat itong pagkasunod-sunod ng mga tagubilin sa isang programming language na maaaring isagawa o interpret ng isang computer. Next is functional. In functional programming languages, functions are treated as first-class objects. In other words, you can pass a function as an argument to another function, or a function may return another function. Examples of functional programming languages are FLSIT, Scheme, and Haskell. Kapag tinawag ang isang purong function na may ilang ibinigay na argumento, palaging ibinabalik nito ang parehong resulta at hindi maapektuhan ng anumang magbabagong estado o iba pang mga side effect. Next is object-oriented. The object-oriented paradigm has gained enormous popularity in the recent decade. Object-oriented is the term used to describe a programming approach based on objects and classes. The object-oriented paradigm allows us to organize software and as a collection of objects, thus consists of both data and behavior. This lets you have nice things like encapsulation, inheritance, and polymorphism. Ito ay isang programming paradigm batay sa konsepto ng mga bagay o object na maaaring maglaman ng data at code. Data sa anyo ng mga field at code sa anyo ng pamamaraan. Ang isang bagay ay may isang sariling pamamaraan ng isang bagay ay maaaring ma-access at madalas na baguhin ang mga patlang ng data mismo. Next is encapsulation. Is one of the fundamentals of object-oriented programming. It refers to the bundling of data with the methods that operate on that data. Encapsulation is used to hide the values or state of a structured data object inside a class, preventing unauthorized parties direct access to them. Ito ay tumutukoy sa pagbundle ng data kasama ang pamamaraan na gumagawa sa data na iyon. Sa isang unit, maraming mga programming language ang mga madalas na gumagamit ng encapsulation sa anyo ng mga klase. Next is inheritance. The mechanism of basing an object or class upon another object, prototype-based inheritance or class-based inheritance. Retaining similar implementation, inherited class is called a subclass of its parent class or superclass. Ang inheritance ay mekanismo na pagbabase ng isang bagay o klase sa isa pang object. Prototype-based inheritance o class-based inheritance na nagpapanatili ng katulad na pagpapatupad. Next is polymorphism. Is the provision of a single interface to entities of different types or to the use of single symbol to represent multiple different types. The concept is borrowed from a principle in biology where an organism or species can have many different forms or stages. Polymorphism tumutukoy sa kakayahan ng isang variable, function o object na magkaroon ng maraming anyo. Ang isang wika na nagtatampok ng polymorphism ay nagbibigay daan sa mga developer na mag-program sa pangkalahatan kaysa sa program sa particular. And we have the parts of Python programming language. So first is identifiers. An identifier is a name given to a variable, function, class, or module. Identifiers may be one or more characters in the following format: Identifiers can be a combination of letters in lowercase a to z and uppercase a to z, or digits 0 to 9, or an underscore. Names like my country, other one, and good. Good morning all are valid examples. A Python identifier can begin with an alphabet A to Z. An identifier cannot start with a digit but is allowed everywhere else. 1 plus is invalid, but plus 1 is a perfectly fine. Ang identifier o symbol ay may pangalan na ibinibigay para sa variable, uri, function at label sa iyong program. So, halimbawa ito, ang resulta ay isang identifier para sa isang integer variable at ang main at printf ay mga pangalan ng identifier para sa mga function. Next is keywords. Keywords are lists of reserved words that have predefined meaning. Keywords are special vocabulary and cannot be used by programmers as identifiers for variables, functions, constants, or with any identifier name. Attempting to use a keyword as an identifier name will cause an error. Ang keywords ay paunang natukoy, nakalaan ng mga salita na ginagamit sa programming na may mga espesyal na kahulugan sa compiler. Ang mga keyword ay bahagi ng syntax at hindi magagamit ang mga ito bilang isang identifier. Halimbawa, int money, dito ang int ay isang keyword na nagsasaad na ang pera ay isang variable na uri ng int integer. Next is statements and expressions. A statement is an instruction that the Python interpreter can execute. Python program consists of a sequence of statements. Statements are everything that can make up a line or a several lines of Python code. For example, z is equal to 1 is an assignment statement. Next is variables. Variable is a name placeholder to hold any type of data which the program can use to assign and modify during the course of execution. In Python, there is no need to declare a variable explicitly by specifying whether the variable is an integer or an float or any other type. Ang variable ay kahalintulad sa mga balde o mga sobre na kung saan maaaring mapanatili at maisangguni ang impormasyon. Parehong mga variable ang A at B, ang mga ito ay simbolikong representasyon sa anumang numero. Halimbawa, ang variable na A ay maaaring maglaman ng numero na 5 at ang variable na B ay maaaring maglaman ng numero na 10. Next is legal variable names. Follow the below mentioned rules for creating legal variable names in Python. Variable names can consist of any number of letters, underscores, and digits. Variable should not start with a number. Python keywords are not allowed as variable names. Variable names are case sensitive. For example, computer and computer are different variables. Ang legal variable names ay ang pangalan na maaaring maglaan ng mga titik digit na 0 to 9 o ang underscore na character. Dapat magsimula ang mga pangalan ang mula sa A to Z o sa salangguhit na character. Next is assigning values to variables. The equal sign is also known as simple assignment operator is used to assign values to variables. In the general format, the operand to the left of the operator is the name of the variable and the operand to the right of the equal operator is the expression which can be a value or any code that results in a value. Ito ay isang simbolo na karaniwang kumakatawan sa isang aksyon o Proseso. Ang mga simbolo na ito ay hinango mula sa matematika at lohika. Ang operator ay may kakayahang manipulahin ang isang tiyak na halaga o operand. Next is operators. Operators are symbols such as addition, subtraction, equals, and greater than and less than that perform certain mathematical or logical operation to manipulate data values and produce a result based on some rules, and operator manipulates that data values called operands. Halimbawa, sa 1 plus 2, ang 1 at 2, operand at ang plus na simbolo ay ang operator. Next is assignment operators. Assignment operators are used for assigning the values generated after evaluating the right operand to the left operand. Assignment operation always works from right to left. Assignment operators are either simple assignment operator or compound assignment operators. Isang operator na nagsasaad na kailangan ang isang partikular na operasyong matematika. Ang bawat programming language ay may sariling hanay ng mga operator na arithmetic na karaniwang kinabibilangan ng add, subtract, and multiply. Next is functions. Functions are one of the fundamental building blocks in Python programming language. Functions are used when you have a block of statements that needs to be executed multiple times within the program. Rather than writing the block of statement repeatedly to perform the action, you can use a function to perform the action. Ginagamit ito upang magtalaga ng bagong halaga sa isang variable, property, event o elemento ng indexer or C programming language. Ang mga operator na pagtatalaga ay maaari ding gamitin para sa mga logical na operasyon tulad ng bitwise na logical na operasyon sa integral, operand at boolean operand. Next is control flow statements. Python supports a set of control flow statements that you can integrate into your program. The statements inside your Python program are generally executed sequentially from top to bottom in the order that they appear. Ito ay ang pagkasunod-sunod kung saan ang individual na pahayag o tagubilin na function na tawag ng isang imperative na programa ay isang isinasagawa o isinusuri. Next is decision control flow statements. Depending on whether a condition is true or false, the decision instructor may skip the execution of an entire block of statements or even execute one block of statements instead of other if else, and if else. Mga pahayag na pagkontrol ng decision o mga pahayag na sumasangga. Ang pahayag ng pagpili ng nagpapahintulot sa isang programa na subukan ng ilang mga kondisyon at magsagawa ng mga tagubilin batay sa kung aling kondisyon ang totoo. Next is loop control flow statements. This is a control structure that allows the execution of a block of statements multiple times until a loop termination condition is met for loop and while loop. Loop control flow statements are also called repetition statements or iteration statements. Ang do-while loop ay isang control flow statement na nagpapatupad ng isang block na code nang hindi bababa sa isang beses at pagkatapos ay paulit-ulit nang nagpapatupad ng block o hindi depende sa isang ibinigay na kondisyon ng boolean sa dulo ng block. Ang ilang mga wika ay maaaring gumamit ng ibang kumbensyon ng pagbibigay ng pangalan para sa ganitong uri ng loop. The if decision control flow statement. The if decision control flow statements starts with if keyword and ends with a colon. The expression in an if statement should be a Boolean expression. The if statement decides whether to run some particular statement or not depending upon the value of the Boolean expression. Next is the if-else decision control flow statement. An if statement can also be followed by an else statement, which is optional. An else statement does not have any condition statements in the if block are executed if the Boolean expression is true. Next is the functions. Functions are one of the fundamental building blocks in Python programming language. Functions are used when you have a block of statements that needs to be executed multiple times within a program. Rather than writing the block of statements repeatedly to perform the action, you can use a function to perform that action. Next is built-in functions. The Python interpreter has a number of functions that are built into it and are always available. You have already looked at some of the built-in functions like input, print, and range. Ang built-in function ay nagbibigay ng maraming built-in na function na kung saan hindi man ay mangailangan ng maraming hakbang upang magawa, halimbawa ang compute ng square root ng isang numero. Next is strings. String usage bounds in just all types of application. A string consists of a sequence of characters which include letters, numbers, punctuation marks, and spaces. To represent strings, you can use a single quote, double quotes, or triple quotes. Ginagamit upang kumakatawan sa text kaysa sa mga numero. Halimbawa, ang salitang hamburger at ang pariralang kumain ako ng 3 hamburger ay parehong mga string. Kahit na ang 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ay maaring ituring na isang string kung tinutukoy ng tama. Next is the str function. The str function returns a string which is considered an informal or nicely printable representation of the given object. The syntax for str function is str object. Halimbawa, i-convert ang 3.5 into a string. So, x is equals to str is equals to 3.5. Next is string slicing and joining. The slice syntax is a handy way to refer the subparts of sequence of characters within an original string. The syntax for string slicing is string name, start, and step. Next is list. List avoid having a separate variable to store each item, which is less efficient and more error-prone when you have to perform some operations on these items. Lists can be simple or nested lists with varying types of values. Lists are one of the most flexible data storage formats in Python because they have values added, removed, and changed. Ang list ay inaayos ang istruktura ng data na may mga elementong paghiwalay ng quit at napakaloob sa mga square bracket. Halimbawa, ang list 1 at list 2 na ipinapakita sa ibaba ay naglalaman ng isang uri ng data. Dito ang list 1 ay may mga integer habang ang list 2 ay may mga string. Ang mga listahan ay maaari ding mag-imbak ng mga pinaghalong uri ng data tulad ng ipinapakita sa list 3. Creating lists. Lists are constructed using square brackets wherein you include a list of items separated by commas. And the list function. The built-in list function is used to create a list. The syntax for list function is list sequence, where the sequence can be a string tuple or list itself. If the optional sequence is not specified, then an empty list is created.